When you think of poverty, you picture this. But what if I told you it really looks like this? A new report showing poor families in the United States are not what they used to be. Now, many poor families have homes with cable TVs, cell phones, computers, you name it, much, much more. My next guest is digging up all of this stuff. Robert Rector is with the Heritage Foundation. Robert, I'm just going to give our viewers a quick run-through of what items poor families in America have. 99% of them have a refrigerator. 81% have a microwave. 78% have air conditioning. 63% have cable TV. 54% have cell phones. 48% have a coffee maker. I'm not surprised, they're only about $10. 38% have a computer. 32% have more than 2 TVs. 25% have a dishwasher. This, sir, Mr. Rector, is very different from what it was just a few years ago, isn't it?
No, actually what you see is that the living standards of the poor have increased rather steadily for the last 30 years. And in fact, the poverty report has not accurately reflected their living conditions really for several decades.
Now, I understand that today the federal government says 14% of the population lives in poverty, and that's roughly the same as it was back in 1966, before all the Great Society programs. But doesn't that look at poverty as a financial, a monetary thing?
Yes, part of the reason that when you look at the actual living conditions of the 43 million people that the census says are poor, you see that in fact they have all these modern conveniences. If you ask them, did your family have enough food to eat at all times during the last year, the overwhelming majority will say yes. If you ask them, were you able to meet any medical needs that you had, they will say yes. The typical poor family in the United States lives in a house or an apartment and actually has more living space than the average European, not a poor European, but the average Frenchman or the average German. So in fact, there really isn't any connection between the government's identification of poor people and the actual living standards and the typical American. When an American hears the word poverty, he's thinking about somebody that doesn't have enough food to eat, somebody that's possibly homeless.
We're
not
told,
true.
I seem to remember in the last few years being told that something like 12% of the children in America go to bed hungry at night. You're saying that that's flat out not accurate.
That's an absolute lie. It's taken from an agriculture report. In fact, what that shows is that maybe 2% of children at some point in the year would go to bed hungry. It's just not true. It's a form of exaggeration. And let me say, I have a great deal of sympathy for those children that did go to bed hungry. About 1 in 5 poor families does struggle at some point in the year to have enough food to put on the table. I have sympathy for those people too, and they are of a concern. But it doesn't do us any good as a nation to grossly exaggerate and misrepresent the living conditions of the overwhelming bulk of the 40 million people that are supposed to be poor.
That's very interesting. Robert Rector, Heritage Foundation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.